Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Jenna, could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became involved in the book design field?
Yes, I can try. Thanks for having me. And I'm Jenna Gesse. I am a German graphic designer and writer, and I live and work in Berlin. And I also teach book design and typography. And I started with this whole topic of design and typography when I was a child, because I had two early passions, which were writing and drawing. And so later I decided to study graphic design and communication design. And there I found out that typography is a perfect combination for me of this thing of writing, so to deal with text, with content, and of the design of content.
As far as the profession goes, books are like a chain of things that come together, from the author to the publisher, the book designer, the printer, the bookseller, the reader. How do you define the role of a book designer in this chain? How important is it?
I am the book designer, so of course it's very important for me. No, I think it's really important because the content of a book can be as good as hell if it's not visual attractive or not readable. Then maybe no one will read the content or view it. And so I think we are some kind of bridge or interface between the content and the people who shall read it or view it.
Do you believe that this importance is acknowledged by the other parts of this chain? I mean, do publishers acknowledge the importance of book design? Do authors acknowledge it? And how about the audience? Are they aware of it?
I think it's very different. Some of them are very aware of it. For example, usually when you design exhibition catalogs, or you have clients in the cultural environment, then usually they are more open and more so open for the design and more aware that it's important. But it's very different, and I think that the most readers or viewers are not really aware of that, but I think there is a lot of unconscious feelings that you have when you hold a book for the first time, or when you take it out of the amount of many other books, choose it for you. Yeah.
You mean in the bookstore?
Yeah.
When they're in the shelf, there are many, many books, and then it's mostly a matter of the cover. Would you say that a lot of people judge a book by the cover?
Usually you choose it by the cover, I guess. When you don't search for something very specific and you know what you're searching for, then the cover, of course, is a big thing. It's the first thing that you see. But of course, I also know the sentence, don't judge a book by its cover. And it's the same like, don't judge people by how they look like. It's exactly the same. It's completely right. But at least it is the first thing that you see.
Let's examine a little bit what you do when you design a book. Mm-hmm. So how do you approach this task? What steps do you take to ensure that the design of a book is effective and visually appealing? Mm-hmm. If you can give us an example of, typically from the beginning, the whole process until the very end.
Yeah. First, I try to understand the content.
Do you read the entire book?
No, I don't read the entire book, but yeah, it sounds so naturally that you try to understand the content, but I know also many designers who are not really interested in the content. They are more interested in the packaging. So yeah, I try to understand the content, so I read some of the texts. Sometimes I have like the first text, like 4 words or whatever, and have a look at images that I get for the book and talk to authors or to curators. And yeah, and then this is, I guess, very special for me. I start to write, because writing is my way of sketching. I start to write like associations for the topic and for the book. Can be words like pride or silence or vacuum, whatever. And then I try to translate this visual. So I try to think about how can this look in the layout, this word itself, what could be translation, visual.
Mm-hmm. Is there a lot of back and forth, or is it, working as a block and then taking the entire thing to the publisher as a finished product?
No, usually it's a lot of communication, and I really like it.
How important is it that you actually like the book, the content? Has it happened to you that you're called to design a book that you don't like or you don't agree with? What happens then?
I never had the case that I really disagreed with the content. I think this would be very hard. So I don't know, maybe some political stuff or whatever, which I disagree. I would not design that book. I think I could not do that.
But I would like to bring Marios into the conversation. Please introduce yourself and tell us exactly why you're here with us today.
Hello, my name is Marios Stamatis. I'm an artist, designer and educator. And together with Vasiliki Maria Plavou, we have established a practice called Studio Precarity. And last year we won the Young Book Designers Award with our book about the 70 years of the OTE organization. And it was the inaugural, as you know, a Young Book Designers Award. And I also teach at the American College of Greece in Athens. I teach typography at the graphic design department. And I do other things such as art alongside working as a graphic designer.
So I would be very interested to hear your perception of the Greek book design industry in particular.
That's a really good question, because I feel that it's kind of divided, if I may say that. On one hand, we have some independent, creative practices that produce interesting and really nice visual material and communication material for, art exhibitions and festivals and such. And then on the other hand, we have the publishers and publication sector, let's say, that they don't get these designers involved as much. So, but there is, an effort from the young Greek designers to actually create some sort of, aura, some sort of identity for the Greek design scene.
In your experience, what would you say are the main challenges facing, in particular, young Greek designers as far as book design is concerned? Do they get enough? opportunities?
Yeah, I think that they young book designers in general, I think they don't get that many opportunities in Greece at the moment, I feel. Besides the established design practices, graphic design practices in Greece, young book designers, they don't really get that much attraction from the publishers. I'm talking about older publishers and new publishers that are kind of, I don't want to say necessarily, they don't want to risk perhaps by actually inviting young book designers to design their books for them, or take over on the identity of the publishing house. And I think that would be my I don't want to say suggestion. Something that I would like to see in the future would be to see more publishing houses, more Greek publishing houses that have literature books and stuff like that, to actually invite young designers to design their books. I would like to see that.
Actually, that's the main reason why we have the Young Book Designers Award, to give more visibility to younger designers. And I would like you to tell me a couple of things about the Young Book Designers Award from your experience. I mean, what do you think you gained by participating last year and winning the competition?
I think this award, the importance of this award lies exactly within this notion of publishing houses getting to know new designers, new and young designers, book designers in Greece. And I think it's important also, it's almost as if this award is tracing the contemporary scene of young book designers in Athens and in Greece in general. And this the continuation of this award is also important because it will give give identity to this young generation of book designers in Greece, and that's why its continuation is important. And besides the personal experience, I think it's also important to include more young book designers, and almost as if it's an effort to create a community of young book designers. And I think this is also important, and create paths of communicating as opposed to dividing and separating, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But in particular, you won the award, and then what happened?
So we won this award, and then firstly we were invited to as visitors, but also to participate and present our work, our book, at the book messe in Frankfurt. And it happened that our book was included in the Stiftung Buchkunst. Correct me if I'm not pronouncing it right.
Totally.
Pavilion in the book fair in Frankfurt. It was also represented by the Greek pavilion in this particular book fair, and then we are gonna present this book at the Thessaloniki Book Fair later this year in May.
So by participating in international and also regional book fair, how do you think that had an effect on you? Did you see things? Did you talk to people that you wouldn't otherwise? Were you influenced by what you saw, the whole experience? How did you think you profited from it?
It was a definitely valuable experience, because not only we had the opportunity to visit this book fair and the international book fair, as well as the Thessaloniki Book Fair, but also had the opportunity to talk with young designers, because this book is also taking part in the international competition for the Best Book Awards, as you know. And we happened to get in touch with other book designers, other winners also, which also, enhanced this community feeling that I was talking earlier. We talked with editors also, who had the opportunity to meet publishing houses who we admire, and they took part in this book fair, and they were really welcoming to us, and we had informal conversations with them. It was a really valuable experience, all in all, overall.
Being there and being in an international environment, I guess, I'm assuming you had the urge to compare the Greek reality to the international reality. Can you tell us about your ideas on that a little bit?
Definitely. Well, firstly, I want to say that there is an influence of European, or like modern, of course, design, graphic design in contemporary Greek design that we see, and also, of course, we can't overlook the power or the influence that social media have on, like trending, for example, graphics and trending design and things like that. However, I have to say that there is a really bright, really amazing opportunity for Greek design to differentiate, because we're dealing with a sort of a different material, especially talking about the Greek alphabet and the Greek language, which is, of course, like a really small population internationally speak this language, but the glyphs, or like the letter forms themselves differentiate it so much from the Latin alphabet, that is a great opportunity to actually create meaning and portray these letter forms, and talk about this stylistically, as well as in the design terminology, as well as concept wise. And I think Greek designers should take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah, I'm coming to you now. Today you got to see a few Greek books. Tell us, your thoughts about that, and what Marios just mentioned about the Greek alphabet. The result, as you saw it in a book, did it look exotic to you, or tell us all your ideas about, going through a Greek book, a Greek designed book.
It looks exotic for me, sure. It's always very special for me to look at a book that I cannot read, and it's even more when the alphabet is completely different. So when I cannot read a book which is Spanish or whatever, then it's still Latin letters. But this is very special, because I usually start to read while I scroll through a book, and have a look at typographic details, and some of them I cannot really judge in the Greek book. So I sometimes ask Marios, can you tell me what this book is about a little bit, so that I have an idea. So it's a totally different view for this book, and but I really like the books that we saw today, and I also think that this is really it can be an advantage, because it's so special. In the last 10 years I have been at a lot of book fairs, like Frankfurt or Leipzig, like the two German big book fairs, and it's really, sometimes it's really a pity that you see books and you cannot tell if it's from Switzerland, from Russia, Russia would be Cyrillic maybe, but sometimes I feel it's really a pity that books start to look the same, because there are trends, obviously, and so I think Greek will be exotic only because of the alphabet, and that's a big chance, I guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that you said you used the word scroll through a book.
Yeah.
We usually say flip through a book, but I loved it because it takes me to my next question. Marios already mentioned, the fact about social media. I would like in general to ask about the ways in which you think technology is impacting book design.
Okay. I missed the word flip, so sorry. Otherwise, I would say flip.
No, but it's very important that you use that word because it shows something about, the connection.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe it shows something that I didn't want to show.
No, but here we're interested about the reality, what really happens, not ideally.
Mm-hmm. For me personally, I don't read ebooks, like never. And
might I ask why?
Because I really love to have the book as an object. I work as a graphic designer, so a lot of my work is in front of the computer and looking at a display. And when I read, I really like to have paper in my hands. Also, when I have to read longer texts, which I got per mail, I print it out because for me I get very tired when I read a lot on display, and I work in front of the computer, so I like to use my other senses when I read a book. So a book has its own smell, the material is very specific, and it has its own weight, so you have an idea of the content maybe, and if you have a book in your hands and okay, I read until here and now I have the next 20 pages, it's totally different than scrolling down like this or like that. And I think it's because I really like the body of a book. It's an object.
Nowadays we have the e-books, we have the audiobooks, and these are efforts by the publishing world to adjust to new technologies. I've heard teachers and parents say that kids are finding it harder and harder to actually grab a book and read it because they're getting used to screens, they're getting used to interaction that is handed over by social media. Marios, are you scared about the future of book and book designers?
Firstly, just to add on Jenna's comments, I think this is the differentiation between an e-book and a physical object. Is this tactile language that is basically rooted in the history of a book, and I think that's the importance of the book and what makes a book unique. To answer your question, I think I am not at all. I'm not scared. I'm hoping for singularity to happen at some point, and I think the next step would be from like a physical book to an e-book to an audiobook. Then with maybe like next step being like a telepathy, where like you can actually think of a book and source the information. I think publishers, will always find, ways to actually publish books. Maybe I think this is also maybe a question on how, new technologies and AI would affect the production or like the production of content in the future. But I think that's the real massive change that will happen in the next few years, especially.
But AI is not just about the content.
Yeah.
a lot of people think that AI can take over the design of books.
Mm-hmm.
Please elaborate.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
Why
I think, you know, in my head is like, I think it's also, you know, we should see it, or I see it at least as such. I see it as a great opportunity, you know, to use these tools that are available in order, you know, in our advantage, and use them in a way that, you know, help us facilitate, help us design.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
this conversation.
Thank you for the invitation.